I forgot to record this because I want to make sure, specifically for those of you who are on my mailing list, because I will be recording this. So if you want, you can just sit back and just really listen. Or, of course, if you want to take notes, feel free to do so. And of course, at the end, somebody said South Jersey, right across from Philly. Of course, at the end, I will give you an opportunity if you want to join my mailing list. And of course, again, welcome, welcome, welcome to taking control of your life by mastering the art of personal organization. And also, I want to let you know if at any point you really feel like sharing something, but you only want me to see it, then send it to me directly. You know my name, Janet Taylor, and I will only share your question, your comment, and not your identity. So I know someone is sharing. I do not know how to teach my college children, my college kids to organize their life. My world is paper and paper files, but their world is only computers and really do not print things. And you know what? And I can understand that as well. I can understand that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm kind of looking at two screens if you're wondering what is going on. So because that will allow me, one, to kind of pay attention to what you read. Oh, somebody else said, me too. Thank you so much for sharing. So again, let's get started. So of course, we are going to talk about reasons behind the stacks of paper because there's a reason behind it, but also initiate the process as well as questions to ask yourself, some resources that are available, and then of course we're going to have a Q&A as well. And I'm not sure as to why something is okay. So BJ Mart, you seem to be doing something on the screen, so I would like to ask you if you wouldn't write on the screen. So please, because that can be a little distracting for other people. Thank you so much for that. So let's continue. So of course, those of you who may not know, this is one of the highlights in my 30 years as a professional organizer. And that is when I had the opportunity to actually be on the Rachel Ray Show. And actually, I got an opportunity to meet Mr. Peter Walsh himself. And of course, also, I was actually crowned the clutter-free queen by Mr. Peter Walsh. So I was so excited about that opportunity to do that as well. So I just want to thank you so much for that. So let's, all right. So, okay, and I unfortunately, someone was just, let me just do something. I unfortunately have to do something that I really don't like to do, but I have to do this because it seems like there is just a little disturbance in the presentation, and I unfortunately don't like that at all. Okay. All right, so I'm just checking, making sure. All right, so hopefully we won't have those issues anymore. Thank you so much. That was a real true treat and highlight. I can tell you I was in shock when they named me the clutter-free queen. Okay, so prepare the umbrella before it rains. It really means actually just really being prepared, just in case you need to access those papers and any of that information that you actually need to access. And that's really what it is making sure everything is organized. So should you need maybe an insurance policy, or maybe you need some documents for your children and their schoolwork, then of course, sometimes just having that information accessible when you need it, because actually I know someone right now who needs a document for their child, and unfortunately they can't find it, even though they had a system in place, but they unfortunately are feeling a little stressed, a little overwhelmed for not being able to find it. So getting the paperwork in order, and I'm going to read this, and I do apologize for this little mark. Don't understand why it's here, but we're going to keep moving on. Getting your paperwork organized saves time, reduces stress, helps with planning, because maybe you are planning maybe to do, some people do refinances, some people want to get out of debt. Some people just want to really see what their assets are. And it's ease in communicating with other people as well, because when you want to sit down with, your advisors and the counselors and legal and financial, you want to be able to have an intelligent conversation about really what you own. And organizing important documents like tax records, insurance policies, legal documents, into a filing system. And that filing system for you could be a physical system, it could be a digital system, but also it could be a combination of both, which is fine. And I want you to know today that whatever system you have, as long as you can access the information when you need it, that's what's important. So let's talk about why we have piles. Why we have piles. First of all, sometimes we just fear we're going to just make a mistake and actually throw something out that may be important. But then sometimes we're at a place where, you're saying, Janet, well, where do I start? I got my paperwork, got my kids' paperwork, got my parents' paperwork. Where do I start? And then sometimes you feel that it may take a little bit too much time. But I'm here to tell you, you know what? That time invested in getting that system in order is going to save you time in the long run. And sometimes you just think, there's better things for me to do. So you're here today. Which one of these is the thing that you keep telling yourself? Is it fear of making a mistake? Not knowing where to start? Maybe you think it's going to take too much time. Or maybe you just keep procrastinating. Or Janet, you can just say, Janet, it's a little bit of everything. Sometimes I just get so overwhelmed. I look at the pile. I know I have to get to it. But you know what? There's something better that I could be doing. Or I'm working. I'm taking care of the kids, taking care of my parents. I don't even have time to breathe, let alone to sit down and do all of this stuff. Or where would I start? Do I start with my stuff? Or maybe it's better I start with my kids' stuff? Or should I start with my parents' stuff because I'm taking care of them? So let me know, what is the thing that's hindering you from actually moving? And someone is sharing all of it. Thank you so much for sharing it. All of it. Anyone else? Is it all of it? Is it some of it? Is it one or two things? Please let me know. But I'm going to read this. It says, we all deal with these issues. I want to let you know that. But identifying the root cause can help you control and start chipping away at all the piles. Someone else is sharing procrastination. So let me take one is the fear of making mistakes. And that is when a lot of times you just seek advice from whether it's your legal counsel or actually it could be your financial person that does your taxes. Like, what do I need to keep? How long do I need to keep it? But then also don't know where to start. And sometimes it's starting with and I'm going to share with you how to start, but sometimes it's starting with just sitting down and just making a list. Like and thinking about all the things that you need to have access to. Maybe, you're getting ready to buy a house, or maybe you want to actually work on your credit, or maybe you do want to have all those important papers, like the will and insurance policies in order. Sometimes just making a list. And in regards to time, you can spend an hour here, an hour there. Doesn't necessarily have to spend all weekend doing it, but just doing a little bit. And then the procrastination, it's just breaking it down into little bite-sized chunks. And that's all you do. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to sit down and make my list. Now that I made my list, I know I need some supplies, which you're going to talk about. Then maybe also you need to get rid of some things that are old and bring in some things that are new. So those are just some things that you need to do just to actually get really started on those piles. So how to get started. Schedule a date. And I want all of you here to think about a date. Maybe you want to get things organized by the time the kids go back to school. Maybe you want to get things organized by your next birthday. Maybe you want to get things organized before the new year. But think of a date. Pick a date and a time to start your new routine. Your new routine is really maintaining order in regards to those personal documents. Then, like I said, make a list. Write down all the tasks and steps you need to take. For example, okay, I need to know what files I need. I need to probably buy some supplies. Maybe I need a container or a filing system. Do I need a shredder? Because I have a lot of old papers. It's just making that list. And then get your supplies, you know, your equipment, your tools, your material. Because a lot of times you may already have some of the tools. A lot of the printers now are already scanners. And of course, these wonderful smart devices are scanners. They can scan documents as well. And then the next thing, you just kind of collect and organize information. Maybe you want to, each person in the household, parents, children, of course, now we have pets. They have a lot of information. Maybe you are taking care of relatives, making sure their information is organized. And sometimes that entails just sitting on the floor and just kind of laying things out. And then, of course, once you go through all of that, the important thing is to create a maintenance plan, and that could be once a year. Because for those of us who live here in the United States, know that there's tax season every single year. After tax season, once they're done, what information can you get rid of? Because according to tax professionals, we are only supposed to keep so many years worth of information. So anything beyond that, do you need to keep it? That's why it's good to have those conversations with legal counsel as well as financial counsel and saying, because they know because of your particular situation what you need to keep. Also, are you taking care of somebody? Are you managing somebody else's things? Because then their type of maintenance may be a little different. So it's just kind of taking these one at a time. The first thing you could do, maybe by the end of this week, is schedule a date to get started. And then maybe in another few days, make a list of what is needed. And then start looking like, where are the supplies? Do I need supplies? And a lot of times with the supplies, I'm going to tell you this, purge before you purchase. Because you may look at all that paperwork and you want to go digital. And you may not need all of that stuff because a lot of that stuff you may get rid of and shred it. And also in regards to shredding, always look for a free shredding event. They're wonderful. And then just set aside a time. Maybe one day you'll just work on one person. Then the next time you work on another person. You don't necessarily have to do all the whole family at once. And create a maintenance schedule. So, and that could be something you do yearly, every 6 months. If you want to do it quarterly, those are some things you could do. So, how is everybody doing? Any questions, any comments? Are you still with me? Are you taking notes? Or are you just listening? And someone is sharing my problem is working on getting rid of duplicate copies, documents. I might have them in my Windows, computer files, my Apple iPhone. So what you do, when you think you might have duplicate copies, the first thing you can do is really, first of all, decide what you need to keep. And let's just, for example, you have a copy of your birth certificate. You have a physical copy, but you also probably want to just have a digital copy just in case you need to send it to somebody. And what you do is, and this is just something you can do, you can build up this habit. Each time you come across that copy, like maybe you had to send it, you were out and you had to send it and you had it in your phone. And then you come across it and you can just, do you want to keep it because it's convenient or do you need to get rid of it? And it's really just kind of going through. And a lot of times what you can do is you can go through each thing. You can go through your drive, you can go through your phone, you can go through, if you have an iCloud and each, just kind of schedule time because that could be something part of your list is like, I need to go through each and find out what's in there and what I need to delete. And that can help you so you're not as overwhelmed. So then what happens is each system and each platform and each app is organized and you don't feel overwhelmed when you go there. And you may decide that because of maybe what you're doing right now, you want certain things to be accessible on your iPhone. But then other things you may want only accessible to Google Drive. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, but definitely, and decide which is easier for you. Because it looks like since you got Windows computer, Apple phone, Google Docs, Google Drive, go to each thing and decide what you need to keep. I'm working, it's a work in progress, but time consuming. And what you do is you just basically schedule time, whether you want to spend 30 minutes or an hour, once a week, every couple of weeks. Think about that in helping you move forward. Because what happens is we do want to do these projects, but unfortunately, what happens is other things may come up and basically they get pushed up and they're no longer, and that project is no longer priority. So making sure you schedule time, even if you can only take 30 minutes every single week. Because if you take an hour a week, that's like, that's a lot of time. But if you can take 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, and just kind of do it. The other past weekend, I decided it was time for me to tackle my email because I've been just going and moving forward, but I needed a moment to stop and deal with all of my email just to make sure I wasn't, missing anything. But so I wouldn't have to see that number of 1,000 and some odd emails. So hopefully that helps you. But think about scheduling some time for that as well. Thank you so much for that question. And of course, at the end, I'm going to allow you, if you want, you can take yourself off of mute and ask me a question directly. So these are questions you need to ask yourself as you are actually working through those piles. Check if the information is up to date and relevant. Because sometimes we get information, for example, maybe you've got investments. And each, year, they give you this nice little booklet that tells you all the little details. Well, you keep 2024 and you can actually get rid of 2023. I actually know somebody who has a Windows 99 computer book. I tell her, let it go. Do I need this? Consider if the information is necessary or useful for your goals. Now, one of the things I got rid of, and some people are just, they're in shock, but I got rid of my report cards. At this point in my life, because I am 60, I'm happy that I turned 60 last year, is that I don't need what I did in the third grade. At this point, hopefully nobody really wants to know what I did in the third grade in regards to my grades, in regards to my attendance. And the reason I felt comfortable getting rid of those because, basically that was stuff I inherited from my mother. So therefore it was like, I know she kept them, but do I really need them? Do I want them? No, I don't. There's so much other stuff that I have that I need to archive. My report card was not one of them. But sometimes you may want to keep things. Maybe, somebody's getting ready to have a milestone birthday, or maybe you're having a milestone birthday and you just want to have a collage of things. I can understand that. Will it add something new? Determine if the information provides new insight or perspectives. If it doesn't, can you let it go? A lot of times, and they have different charts. And basically, the IRS does have a publication that lets you know how long you need to keep things. So that could be a start. But then begin to look at some of the stuff we have. And, you have taken a vacation maybe 10, 20 years ago, and you're still holding on to the brochures. Do you really need it? Because, most of the time, those things have been updated. Even with maps, came across somebody who had all these maps. And I said, are they relevant? These maps were done in the 70s. And as you and I both know, the landscape everywhere globally has changed. So really, there is no need for us to keep some of the old maps. Now, sometimes you may want to keep it for nostalgia because maybe, things were, depending on where you live, you want to see things, but do you need to keep it? And the biggest one, do I have time to read it? Now, of course, um, I'm going to get to that comment in the chat in just a few minutes. But do you have time to read it? Really? We get magazines now. Sometimes we get digital copies, but do we get the physical copies? And the physical copies we get, do we really have time to read those physical copies? Someone was so excited because they got access to a bill that was passed. And it was at least maybe 3 or 4 inches thick. And I asked them, do you have time? She's like, well, I want to make time because I want to better understand it. But then I opened it and I said, can you understand it? Because it was written in a language that is not just everyday language that we read. It was a bill, it was that was passed. So there were certain clauses and certain language that was used. And she said, I hadn't thought about that. So sometimes we have to really ask ourselves that. And someone's sharing. Also shocking as to how much there is. I just got rid of 500 plus books in Kindle, and I'm not going to read them all before I die. If I don't like the topic and they were rated less than 4.5 stars, they got deleted. And thank you so much for sharing that, because sometimes we do have to put, just some parameters, some standards. Um, you know, Giving away books, and that's something a lot of times people can't, oh my gosh, I can't give away books, but if you're not reading it, because just think about if you've gone to an event. Sometimes we go to conferences, we go to events, we get that little swag bag, and in that bag is a book. Now, sometimes it's a book that we wanted, but a lot of times it's not. So what are you doing with that book? Give those things away, making room, because really, statistics says that 80% of the stuff we keep, we never reference again. And of course, we wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. But 80% of the stuff we keep, we never ever reference again, because we just keep it just in case I need it, just in case I want to read it, just in case I want to refer to it. So really think about it and think about your space of what you want in your home as well as in your life. So thank you so much. And also they have those wonderful, and let me know if they have one in your community. They're called little libraries, almost look like a little birdhouse, where you can actually take the books and just donate. And I like that because it allows people within the community to just get a free book and read it. And not only that, you know, even some of the, whether you're in, I want to say textbooks, because some people just are like life learners and they just want to learn things. So if you're still holding on to your textbooks and you've been out of college for at least a good, 20 or 30 years, is it time to let them go? You know, I know someone who has been retired for several years and still is holding on to his high school books. So just let them go. So these are just some resources that when you are deciding to actually tackle the paper in your life, you definitely need a good paper shredder, and making sure that when you do get a paper shredder, it kind of puts it in like those micro sizes. You don't want the strips, because what happens, unfortunately, is people will actually take the strips and put them together. Now, if you don't have a shredder, always look for a free shredding event. I love free shredding events because it allows you to bring all of your stuff and just see it go. Now, sometimes they will allow you to just kind of sit there and look at them, but then sometimes you can actually just leave it and let them shred it. And it's just like a freak feeling. Then, of course, you document scanner. But of course, if you've got a printer, your printer may already do that. Our phones can scan. So look for those things, because that will help you go paperless. And in regards to a safe, a fireproof, and a waterproof. I had always like, you need a fireproof, but then an attorney said, think about a waterproof as well, because a fire person's job is to put the fire out, no matter how much water they need to use. And therefore, you want to make sure things are protected. Now, they do have different types of products out now. Some they have waterproof and fireproof pouches where you can put your documents in. And then I'm going to share a product that I personally use later on in regards to just organizing my documents, but also it is fireproof as well. So I don't want you to feel like you got to run out and get those things, because specifically with the shredder, if you can find a good shredding event, and usually most cities and communities have shredding events several times. They usually have them the spring, maybe in the fall. They don't have too many in the winter months because of the cold weather. And then, of course, again, seeing what you already have that you can actually use to scan things as well. So any questions, any comments? Are you getting anything from this evening? So I know someone had mentioned about the digital. And this is a resources for digital. And it's like you got cloud, you got external hard drives, and of course, flash drives. One of the things I want to share with you about digital documents is number one, you can actually, for example, maybe you do have a physical file of all of your important documents. Could be passport, driver's license, um, uh, Social Security card. I'm just naming all of the things that I can think of. But you can also have a digital file, name it important documents, and actually, I would even take it a step further, because each person in the household, just have important documents, and then give each person a folder and have all of those uploaded in there. So you have a physical copy, because certain documents we do need to have physical, original, but then also sometimes a scanned document is really good, making sure you have those folders available and using one of these type of storage devices. And of course, the same thing is true, is making sure, because when we do have those digital files, we also sometimes can have duplicates, we can have triplicates. And therefore, again, it's taking the time to really just getting rid of what we don't need and making sure that we keep what is necessary in regards to actually, so we can have the original copy. And that is important because it brought up years ago. I was working with a woman. She was 99 years young, and she was the executor of, she had two sisters, both of their estates. And of course, what concerned me was a couple of things. One, I didn't like where she actually had everything stored, because we're talking 99 years young, but whoever was storing it had put it on the top shelf in a closet, and I didn't like it. I said it needs to be on the bottom shelf. But also, there were so many copies of wills and policies, and it was really just kind of going through and sorting and making sure what was valid and what wasn't. And someone said, I've scanned for free as a library and sent the documents to my Gmail. Thank you. I did not know that service was available. I also got a fireproof pouch for important docs that I can grab and run. A safe lockbox is just too heavy. And you're so right. Sometimes we do have to just grab and run. I mean, I think about, I know here a few years ago, there was a major flooding, unlike we've ever seen, at least I've ever experienced and seen. And sometimes people you just need to grab and run and get things out of the house. So thank you so much for sharing, but I did not know. And that's a good source. So, I don't want you to feel like, what, Janet's giving me all these things I need to do in regards to, just breathe and just take a little bit at a time. Maybe you don't have a scanner. Look for a scanning event. I mean, not a scanning, a shredding event, and see what you have for. Do you trust cloud storage with personal information like the things you listed? So, in regards to storing a digital copy, I personally have flash drives, but I know people who have external drives. There are some things that I have on a cloud. And that's just because I need other people to be able to have access to it. Because both in my personal and my business, I need people to have access to things. So just in case they can access things, like passwords. So that's something that I have felt a little bit more comfortable doing. But In regards to all of my other documents, they're either on a USB drive or they're either on an external hard drive. But everybody feels a little different because there's so many different cloud-based systems. And always look for a cloud-based system that almost has the government grade protection. Um, I've, really had conversations with companies that actually offer cloud-based systems, and really they have the same level of protection as a lot of the government agencies. So always look for that. Always make sure that before you do actually use a cloud-based, just making sure that you double and triple check. And of course, with everything, we're supposed to be changing our passwords very frequently. But with the flash drives and external hard drive, it's something you can just grab and go. But also making sure, my flash drives and things like that, they are in a safe. I know iCloud and flash drive. Please explain what an external hard drive almost is like a box. I don't think you can see, almost like the square shape of a phone. And what it is, it has a cord. So basically, you plug the cord in, one into the external hard drive, and then the other goes into the computer. So it's more or less having, how our computers have a drive. So it's more or less, it's a drive, but it's external. It's not within the computer. So therefore, you can store it like, of course, people used to store it in a safe deposit box. People put it in safe. People put it in, and some people actually go to um, a separate measure of actually taking that and having it stored someplace else, not in their house. So should anything happen, they still have access to files and things because it was not in their home. It was, actually stored somewhere else. And some people store them at friends' homes. I know some people that store them and some people still have those lock boxes or security boxes in banks. So that's what hopefully that kind of, you know, helped you better understand. Sometimes I'm not the good at explaining things as I should be, but hopefully that does as well. So in regards to maintaining order, and before I move on, any questions, any concerns? Are you getting something from this presentation tonight? Please let me know. I definitely want to know. So maintaining order. Number one, putting things away. Not only just putting things away, but also if you are working on a document on your computer, save it where it needs to be saved. Don't just save it to the desktop or just save it so that when you need to find it the next time, you can actually get it. But return things to where they belong. The next thing is scan regularly, specifically if you really want to have a paperless life. Scan things. When they come in, scan them. I years ago paid off my student loan. And I felt, it's finally time for me to actually get rid of all the paperwork because I paid it off in the 90s. But for some reason, mentally, I'm not ready to let it go. So I just scanned all the paperwork. And that means, like someone shared with me that a couple of things. One, when they have like a little basket in their office. So when the basket gets to a certain point, that's when their daughter shreds it. But also when the things on their desktop gets on their in basket, then that gets to a certain point. Then what they do is they actually scan them. So sometimes you can scan it right away. Sometimes you can use it once a week, once a month. Making sure you shred. I just talked about shredding regularly. That's very important. And also, whether you want to do it once a week, once a month, when the pile gets too big, but also in all of this, your workspace, whether it's a home office, whether it's a dining room table, oh, wonderful. I'm glad. Thank you. Is to clear the space when you're done. And I'm saying that because it reduces your stress. It allows you to feel more in control of your space, but also you will be more focused on what you have to do when you go back into that workspace. Because to keep desk and work areas free from clutter at the end of each day, at the end of each session, And and also that'll kind of get you into the habit of maintaining order. It's like, oh, I've done all of this paperwork, whether you were, trying to just figure out how to refinance something, look, manage your credit, or even just kind of, making sure that the children, all of their information is ready for the next school year. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you. Yes. And that an incoming box can work. Well, a couple of things. If you have a lot of mail coming in, definitely have an incoming box and definitely position it whether you want to position it. Some people position it by the front door, maybe by the entryway, by the garage door, because what that does is all of the mail and information is in one location. You don't have to worry about figuring out where it is. You don't have to also worry about losing things because what it does is if you decide that that's where it's going to stay until you manage it, then you'll always be on top of things. And of course, an incoming, it could be a letter tray. If you see, I move this way. These boxes, these little baskets behind me, you could use a nice little decorative basket with a lid. So therefore, it looks like a basket of people coming to visit and everything. They don't have to know that all of your mail and all of the circulars and everything like that are actually in there. So sometimes it's just getting in the habit of doing things like that. That can do wonders for you because one, you'll stay on top of everything because then once a week you'll just kind of go through, get rid of the junk mail, get rid of the circulars you don't need, process or, however you manage anything else that comes in. That can help you. Like how many of you here actually now receive electronic bills? That can be a saver as well, actually having the bills either emailed to you, or of course, some people do feel comfortable enough just having, money deducted out of their account on a regular basis, because that can reduce the physical paper clutter. It's some doing some things like that that can help you as well. Um, Also, just being comfortable enough getting rid of those paperwork when you really don't need it. For example, maybe you decide to order food. And of course, sometimes the receipts, no, afraid I'll miss the email. I have over, okay, you have over 30,000. Oh, wow, that's a lot of emails. So maybe what you could do is one of the things that automating bills, yes, it is. One of the things you could do in regards to if you want to reduce the paper clutter is really have a list every month because we most of us know lists, spreadsheets. I have a combination of both. I have a list. So every month I know what bills I'm supposed to be paying, but also I have a spreadsheet. And a spreadsheet helps me because as we all know, there are certain things that you take care of quarterly. Um, there are certain things that you take care of quarterly. So certain insurances are paid quarterly, some insurances are paid yearly. So sometimes just having those as a backup, or some people I know they actually put stuff on the calendar. I use my credit union's bill pay service and it takes less than 5 minutes to sit and pay all. Wonderful. So whatever works for you. Some people, and I'll personally tell you, in my personal life, most things some things are paid automatic, like the insurances, but some things I do pay. But in my business, basically everything is just automatic. And it's interesting how that worked out for me, but it works. So whatever works for you. But in regards to the paper, it's just really creating a system for all the incoming, one location. So therefore, you don't have to worry about, did I put it over here? Did I put it over there? And then scheduling time, whether you want to do it weekly, every couple of weeks, to actually go through, get rid of what you don't need. And that could be even making sure you have like a shredding day. Maybe the 29th of the month or the 15th of the month is your shredding day. Maybe, once, or either you can have the 15th as your shredding day, and then maybe the 21st um, as maybe a scanning day, work it so that you can actually make sure you maintain order. And in regards to the emails, because that can sometimes be a little overwhelming, I just took chunks at a time. I just said, okay, I'm going to get down to at least 100. And I'm going to get through another 100 and another until I actually, and then also, because, and this depends on the type of emails you're getting, I got to a place where anything past a certain date, I just kind of looked, scanned and deleted, because I'm like, whatever it is, I know I've got something a lot more recent in order to um, actually take care of it. So, in a few minutes, I am going to allow you to ask me a few questions, but I just wanted to give you some additional free resources. A lot of you already listen to my podcast, so I hope a lot more of you will, but it's got Clutter Get Organized. It's weekly, and I basically have episodes to just help you live an organized life. This week, we talked about how you can really organize those photos, and that was exciting. Then, of course, I have a newsletter. And of course, I give organizing tips in the newsletter that comes out at least once a month. I try not to overwhelm you with things because I know that you've got a lot going on. And then, of course, it's my Facebook group, which is a private group. Right now, we have over 100 women in that group. And basically, that group allows people to have access to me. They ask me questions, they post videos, they post pictures. They say, Janet, I want to organize this. How can you help me? But we also discuss topics in regards to just, um, what the topic of the week is on the podcast. And actually, for the past couple of days, I've been actually encouraging them to actually organize their emergency supplies. Because a friend recently, her water was shut off, and we were asking, well, where's your extra water? And she's like, what do you mean extra water? So I felt like, you know what, this is a good teaching moment. So that's what I did as well. And then, of course, you know, I do offer the Get Your Affairs in Order. And basically, this is for all of those important documents. And the kit, just a simple kit, is basically um, a booklet that tells you what you should be organized. It has file folder labels that actually you can use, print out, and then, all you have to get is your file folders. But then the deluxe kit is actually the ebook plus the file folder labels, plus a lot of people just want to have a conversation with me. So, and of course, I hope all of you here are on my mailing list because I will be emailing this recording later on. And of course, this I am excited about because I know a lot of you want to organize your paper. And I want to organize my paperwork because I want to make sure, as a single woman, that should anything happen to me, people are not scattering and looking all over the place. And plus, as an organizer, it just doesn't look good. And I came across, it's called the Knox box, the next of kin box. And they have different versions. I have the version that is fireproof. File folder labels come already with it. It comes with a pouch for keys. So this is what it looks like. This is the pouch for the keys. I'll put it up. And then you can put all the different keys and label them. And the reason they did this was because the creator's father passed. He had a lawnmower that they just wanted to get rid of, but they couldn't find the keys. And they found out from a friend that he had a boat, which they didn't even know that he had. And then also, it's really nice because it has sections, which this is bank, and I'm not sure if you can see that. This is bank account, but then it has a file with bank account. And what I love about this is it has actually a place in here where you can put notes. I love it. So if you scan the QR code, or you can either use the web address. If you go there, they've always got all kind of wonderful discounts, which I want you to make sure you take advantage of as well. And of course, again, this will all be in the email. And then of course, I am having another webinar. This one will just be strictly on time management. So look more. Details will be coming soon about this. This will be in September, the end of September. It's hard to believe the year's going by so fast. But that will take place in September. But I want to know, one, do you have questions? Do you have takeaways? And do you want to, raise your hand if you want to ask me a question directly? Of course, this is all of my information if you want to connect with me online. And I took a screenshot of the next. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And of course, that's just a link to my website. And of course, connect with me on social media. I would love for you to. But do you have any questions? Do you want to raise your hand and ask me a question? Do you have a takeaway? Like the information, do you have a takeaway? And is there possibly another topic you would like for me to talk about? Because I like talking about organizing. As I said, we'll be talking about time in September, but if there's something else, and I hope I answered all your questions. Someone said, I'm going to just do it. Just make sure you schedule whatever it is, even if it's 30 minutes or an hour, just schedule it because that will give you something. It's just like an appointment. You'll have that time set aside. So even if you just do 30 minutes, you'll feel a lot better because you've done it, you cross it off of your list, and then you can move forward. So, any other questions, any other comments? And I do just kind of want to go back because I know there were. Oh, thank you. Do you keep a few file folders on your desktop and if what are they labeled? Okay, a few file folders. So I guess, how I organize and manage things is really, I don't keep, my desk is kind of clear because I've realized after all these years, I don't like anything on my desk. So basically the way my desk is set up is I most of everything that I need is behind me. My pencil cup is on my shelf behind me. I have a letter tray, which, okay, I got to turn this way, which is right here. That stays there. In regards to my file folders on my desktop. Oh, my desktop. I'm sorry. See, you're saying the desktop. So I only have a few on my desktop. And actually, the only things that are really on my desktop are my PowerPoints for my presentation. That's the only thing on my desktop. In regards to that, when I turn on my computer that I see, in regards to files on my computer, yes, I have folders, but I rarely keep any files on my desktop because just for me, visually, that is like too overwhelming. I hope that answered your question. But yeah, I just keep, because I'm constantly doing trainings, that the presentations are the only thing I keep on my desktop so I can just pull them up really quick. Yeah, I rarely keep documents on except unless I need it for training. Okay. Because when you said desktop, I'm like, wait a minute, they're actually talking about the desktop. Yes. But on my desk in general, I don't like anything. I have a letter tray. And actually, and this may help some of you, is that to keep me on top of all the things that I have to manage is I have file folders. I'm going to turn around just for a second so I can grab them. Now they're a little messy. So today is Tuesday. So, and this one is kind of worn, but I have a file folder with a Tuesday. This is a 2-pocket file folder. And what I do is anything that I have to do on a Tuesday goes in this. And I have one for all 5 days. They're all in red because they are work stuff most of the time. But if I have to pay a bill or have to remember something, it goes in that day. And then I also have one that's not red, it is blue. And that is all my personal stuff that I need to kind of stay on top of. So that's how I stay on top of everything. I like this method because again, it's just a file folder with the day of the week and whatever paperwork I need for that day. Maybe I need to make a call, or like in my personal, I need to kind of look at my insurance because there's some things that I can take advantage of and I need to sign up for. So, and that helps me stay on top of things, but I not don't have to search for that piece of paper like a lot of times. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we just don't know where to put it. And sometimes putting it in just a regular, just kind of stacking it was not being it wasn't keeping me effective and efficient. So this way I stay on top of things and I'm more focused. It's like, okay, this is what I'm doing today. And I don't get distracted by all the other pieces of paper. So I hope that helps someone as well. So again, first, I definitely want to thank all of you for attending today. It was greatly appreciated. Where to start when you have 10 to 15 years of paper and mail piled throughout the house? Okay, so of that 10 to 15 years, really it depends. It depends on where you are. And of course, one of the things I do is I always text the person that does my taxes. I'm like, what can I get rid of in accordance with the law? And once I find that number, then it makes me feel a little better. It's like, okay. But if you got 10 to 15 years, then first think about, well, what years do I need to save? And start from there. Like, what do I need to save and how do I need to organize? Start there. Once you know what you need to save and how it needs to be organized, house stuff, financial stuff, maybe car stuff, work stuff, school, I'm just naming these. Once you need to do that, then you kind of go back and like, okay, I don't need this because I have this. And also, okay, oh, mainly responsible for paperwork of three deceased relatives. Okay, oh, okay. So even with that, speaking with legal counsel, financial counsel, and find out what do I need to keep? Because even with them, do you need to keep everything? My mother passed, so therefore, there were certain things. I mean, I had to do the final tax return, so I still have that. I'm going to keep that. I even called because, she was receiving, what is it, Medicare? I always get confused with the Medicare and the Medicaid. But anyway, she was receiving it. And I thought, okay, when can I get rid of this? Well, they told me, because I called them and they said, well, you got to keep it at least 10 years. So basically, what I did was I put everything that they told me I had to keep for 10 years in an envelope, sealed it, and I put the date when I could actually take it to a shredding event and get it shredded. So that's what I did with that. Um, and there are certain things that I just wanted to keep of hers, not everything. But it's just a matter of just kind of figuring out like what is it because I want to keep it because of a memory? What do I need to keep because of legal and financial? And what is just stuff that I really don't need to keep? When she passed, my mother passed in 2001. She had bills dating back to the 60s, gas bills dating back to the 60s. But of course, I had somebody there who helped me go through that. And sometimes that could be a solution as well. Is there somebody who can help you? Like you look at something like, oh, I don't need this, and they could just put it in a bag to be shredded. And that may help you as well because it can be a little overwhelming. So that may be a solution as well. But yeah, just and it may be just taking a box at a time and also just making sure you had a support. Because even sometimes going through, she had all these paper clippings from magazines, which was good. And it was historical information, but it was still emotional. It's like, so sometimes just having a physical person, even sometimes if you're just sitting there, maybe binge watching something else, but at least having somebody to talk through that with you. So hopefully that helps you as well. Oh yeah. 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 Just do a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. Do not overwhelm yourself. Get somebody, if you get a support, basically find out what you need to keep. Because once you figure out what you really need to keep, you can kind of begin to get rid of like, do you need, you know, gas bills and electric bills and utility bills from 15 years ago? Do you need those? Um, you know, and okay, one thing that I did to stay organized was to put all my business cards in a book, and it's also a good place to store and keep gift cards. I also store a lot of information on my phone, such as bank. Okay, all right. So you know what? It's like whatever you need to do in order to stay organized, because everybody's going to have a different system. Some people like having those little notebooks. Some people will put things in their phone. So whatever system you use to help you stay on top of things, use that. It's not necessarily a right or wrong way sometimes to do things. It's like what makes you be more effective and efficient. I'm a very visual person. I can use a digital online calendar, but I need a planner. I need a planner to write stuff in and to cross stuff off as well. So again, I definitely want to thank all of you for coming. I will be posting this recording, and I will also actually be making sure that if you're on my email list, you will get this in the email. And I think I will be actually making this available to the public on my YouTube page. So if you're not following me on YouTube, make sure you just check it out. And I think I'm gonna possibly make another one I did earlier this year available as well. But again, I truly am grateful for all of you who attended this evening. I was going to say this evening. So I want you to continue to be safe. I want you to continue to be well. And of course, those of you who are in the midst of heat wave, continue to stay cool. And of course, continue to have a good evening and continue to just, you know, stay organized. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.